If you look at the Google map today, you have access to it. Churchandpur is actually a part of that oval-shaped middle valley. There are a lot of valleys in Manipur, by the way. You know, we always have a singular notion of a valley, oval shape. There are, say, Khopum Valley, there are Sajik Tampak, there are a lot of valleys because it's a mountainous regions, you know. So I think if you have rightly pointed out, it is part of an organic entity. It's an intimately connected part.
And the British made the terrible mistake of trying to separate an organic entity into two separate topographical entities.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Now, as a result of
By the way, it's not only topographical, but the people themselves have been separated by them.
Absolutely. Now, I'm coming to that.
Yeah, okay.
As a result of this false topographical distinction, you write in your Hindu article, the people were divided and governed under different regimes of law. The hill tribes were governed by a separate set of criminal and civil laws, irrespective of whether they lived in the hills or the valleys.
Absolutely.
And this means that on the basis of a completely false, contrived topographical division, the same people began to be treated in different ways.
Absolutely. Exactly.
And this interesting thing to note is that the exaggeration of the situation which happened after independence is all based on the false topographical distinction between hill and valley, which doesn't apply to Manipur.
You know, Karan, you know, what is sad is that we talk about post-colonial period is unpacking of the colonial categories and so on. Instead, it has more farmer because the British did not. Even though they have this perspective of the topography, in terms of their practice, it is applied on the people, not on the land. You can move around and you settle down in the colonial period, right? But Indian law has introduced in terms of the land as well. They have this idea of hill areas, this concept.
You're making a very important point, and forgive me, I'm interrupting you only to underline it for the audience. In the British period, although the distinction between hill people and valley people was based on a false topographical definition and perspective, there was no distinction in terms of land.
But only on people.
People could buy land wherever they wanted.
They can settle anywhere.
But after independence, that distinction in terms of people also began to apply in terms of land, and suddenly the Meitei, the people of the valley, couldn't buy land in the hills.
Yeah, that's
right? Although the hill people can still buy it in the valley.
That's a constitutional scheme.
Absolutely. So, this is what I mean. What was already bad and false under the British became worse and further fabricated after independence. And this is why you mentioned the Manipur Land Revenue and Land Reforms Act of 1960. Because that's where this distinction in terms of who can own where comes into being. Manipur is defined as a hill state. But you want to treat the valleys as different.
Absolutely. That's the crazy things, you know, that's been going on.
Let's take stock of what we've so far established, because I think it will help the audience do that. What you said, starting from the British and continuing under the Indian government after independence, step by step, a false topographical division ended up creating different people out of the same people, giving them different laws, and worst of all, giving them different land rights.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true, isn't it?
That's true. That's true.
You have a very telling sentence about precisely this in that Hindu article. I'm going to read it out for the audience because it actually brings home the absurdity of what happened. You write, nowhere in the country, perhaps even in the entire world, have such abnormal and fabricated divisions been officially created and nurtured amongst a minuscule population belonging to the same ethno-linguistic family inhabiting a small and compact mountainous region. This is actually a unique absurdity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are the cookies outsiders? Your argument clearly says they're not.
No, that's what I'm trying to tell you, that you're jumping, the conclusion, what I'm trying to say. There's a nuanced way of looking at it. First of all, this notion of how long you have to be in a place to be called a native is a fundamental problem in term when you use like indigenous. But I prefer to use citizens. Okay? So in that sense, cookies are citizens. Not all cookies are foreigners. I'm very clear on this one. But when you talk about the migration patterns, it's quite clear that some of these group, you come under the category of cookie. These are recent relatively as compared to the other one. But by saying that recent, if they have been there for 100 years or, 200 years, how can you call them as an outsider? Would be my argument in terms of a citizenship. But mind you that I think one of the things, I've seen many of your program also, a lot of writings have been going on. Who are cookies? I'll tell you one example. Thadau INPI, this is the apex body of the largest tribe in Manipur, which comes under the generic sense of Kuki. They have applied memoranda after memoranda to the government of India as well as the state government, saying that do away with this term called Kuki, remove any Kuki as a category from the scheduled tribe list because it will encourage infiltration from the outside. It is not said by Meiteis, it is said by Thadau INPI, the apex body of this.
Let me put something else.
You understand this?
I do, but let me put something else to you. It was very clear in the first half of this interview that you believe that the people of the hill and the valley are the same ethno-linguistic group
Absolutely.
of people. We repeatedly said they are the same people which the British, for reasons of divide and rule, created a false topographical distinction and converted into different people.
Yeah.
If that is the case, and you stand by it,
I stand by that.
If that is the case, then the Kuki and the Meitei are the same people. They are the same ethno-linguistic
That's what
people.
that has a larger part. What I'm saying is that how, if you look at the history, the British have utilized these Kukis as a buffer between the Nagas and the valley areas. That history is, I don't need to repeat, it's everywhere, you can check it. What I'm arguing is that you stick to this argument of indigenous, non-indigenous will have some issues in the contemporary time. You need to treat people in terms of citizens. Major issue for me today is that how did this citizenship get acquired in the recent histories? There are satellite images. There are so many other issues of the settlement patterns which needs to be investigated. That's a very clear picture. But I do not like to call my own fellow citizens as outsiders.
That's why you disagree with. That's why you disagree with Pramod Singh.
Yeah, but if he's calling all the Kukis or all the people who
comes under... He went on record to me to say that the majority of Kukis are illegal.
That's an issue which needs to be investigated.
You think it's possible that the majority are illegal?
Yeah, I have enough information on the satellite images. That's a security area reasons people have been mapping out because Indian Army has been fighting and they've thrown out many of them.
But aren't you now contradicting?
No, I'm not contradicting it. That's why I think your framing is when you have an illegal immigration issue in Mizoram, the same Kukichin group, there is a famous icon which was born in Kukichin state of Burma, which is now in Mizoram. He get an Aadhaar card, he has a birth certificate from Mizoram. The Mijos are up in arms now. How do you have these refugees become citizens? In Manipur, you can't raise these issues.
Let's come back to Manipur.
So what I'm saying, they don't get mixed up.
Let me finish. If we agree, and we've said this 3-4 times, that the Kuki and the Meitei are the same ethno-linguistic group.
That's true. Said to the Mijos
then on what basis do you think we need to investigate that the majority of Kuki are illegal?
No, I don't say that majority. No, I didn't. Don't put words to my mouth.
But you said it needs to be
investigated. I'm saying that that's an allegation that needs to be investigated.
But is it true or false?
How can I say without a proper investigation?
Then it means it could be true.
It could also be true. It could also be wrong. But this not taking an investigation is creating a conflictual situation. It's like, that Cuban crisis. You don't talk, you think something, I think, without talking to each other.
Explain something to me. If they are the same ethno-linguistic people, if they were falsely divided by the British and that division was made worse after independence by the way land laws were created, then why do we even need to believe for a moment they're illegal?
Come on, Karan. Will you allow all the Bangladeshis as Bengali to come here, all the West, Punjabis from Pakistan to come in, all the Sinds to come in, all the Tamils from the Tamil Ilams to come in? Why should they be illegal immigrants?
On what basis do you believe?
Tell me, if they come in.
If someone makes an accusation that the majority of Kuki are illegal and someone else says, yes, we must investigate it, you only investigate something which could be plausibly correct or false.
And that's what I said.
But what's the reason? It's an
I have already given.
Be defended.
No. How can it? If somebody accusing that a lot of Bangladeshis are here, for example.
That's a BJP accusation.
No, I know.
And it's usually made against Muslims because they don't like Muslims.
No, I know that. I don't like that.
But does the same thing apply to saying that let's investigate whether the Kukis are legal or illegal?
If you have a security space on a border area, Indian Army has been satellite mapping, and if you have images of a growth of villages and mushrooming of villages, it is legitimate. Though some of the people in Churchandpur have rightly pointed out, hinted at one possible angle to that is, after the Kuki Naga clash, many of the Kukis have shifted from the rest of the state to that area. So the increase in the villages could be because of that, not necessarily from outside India.
Let me say something.
No. Did you get what I'm saying?
I did indeed.
Let's investigate indicate that's fine.
Well,
but I don't like to continually point fingers at all cookies, all citizens who come. But I've already said, cookie is a problematic term. Who is a cookie? Ask the Thado NP who have said that they are not
You made
cookies.
that point. Let me